Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun! The show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode of government-sanctioned podcast, Astro Baby, da. Welcome, everybody, to the show. It is I, your charming cannibal, Kermit the Grog, here with my Soviet super soldier co-host, Isekai Sensei Sama Brad.
Da.
And we're joined by government-mandated special guest, MaxyBee.
Yeah.
No, Astro Baby, not Acton Baby. You gotta get more east on the map.
Sorry, our maps only really acknowledge things that used to be parts of the Empire, you know.
Yeah. That's why Maxie knows about us. We live close enough to the East Coast. We are a part of that.
Fuck all that perfectly good tea. Terrible.
Today we're talking about Astro Baby, which has literally just dropped on the Shonen Jump app, which is why we're talking about it. Literally, 2 days ago.
At time of recording.
At time of recording, this first and only chapter dropped February 2nd of 2024. And that's it. Normally I don't like to reveal that,
That's
but when we only
all you get.
I get really excited when we get here early enough to get to the first chapter of something before anything else has happened.
Me, especially because I can actually go on the flop pool and actually put something in.
I don't think we're actually playing Flop Bull and Astro Baby, though, because it's not in the magazine.
Oh, that's a good point. There's a thread for it, though.
There's a thread, but nobody's posting frog heads, so it means we're not playing it. We only play for magazine ones. Somebody's got to start it. I just show up.
I'll set off the dominoes.
Yeah. We'll talk to you later about how to play Flop Pool if you'd like to. But for now, we should probably talk about the series, Astro Baby. Buckle yourself in, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride through my patented speedrun summary.
Do we have author stuff?
I don't have any. I guess, yeah. Maxie, do you have any special tips and factoids about this series?
So this, not too much. This is the second series of Shiro Moriya, who is a fantastic creator. Who'd previously done Soloist in a Cage for Jump Plus previously in 2018. Had a large gap in between, so it took a while to finish. Licensed and available through 7 Seas and readable on the Manga Plus app if you give them money. So you are able to get a bit of a grip on what the author is like. And she's fantastic. Just a good cartoonist. I believe came up through like doing work on the internet rather than through the traditional sort of be a rookie for Jump process. And I think it kind of shows because it does not look like a Jump series, and that is purely a compliment.
Yes, agreed. We'll get to that after my thing. We'll get into it. I'm excited to get into it. Okay, this summary's long. I maybe came in with a little too much care. We open on a bloody mess in the outskirts of a snowy town. A small child with a drippy nose witnesses a smiling man tearing into a bloodied woman and eating her. The man gives a stuttered message. I warned her not to tell anyone. Cue a gorgeous title splash, Astro Baby. We're in the remote town of North Hill, way up north. Big Soviet bloc energy, though that might be because the main character wears an ushanka. Is that an ushanka, right? Isn't that what that's called? That, like, Russian hat?
I don't know.
Okay. Not helping me. Nobody knows.
It's a Russian hat.
There you go. I maybe learned that from the Heavy from TF2. I believe one of his things is called the ushanka. The news tells of more cannibal activity. A professor killed and ate his wife before he was gunned down. Snot-Nosed Billy, the child from before, is at the police station, claiming to be a witness to the scene, and states that the professor's body was covered in a black goo. The police officer gets pissed at Billy for his continued lying on this black goo stuff, but Billy insists he's not fibbing. A young scientific girl, also at the station, says she believes Billy, mentioning a meteorite generating organic matter, and that this was something the professor was researching. This young lady, Eleanor, was the professor's assistant, and knows Billy from when he was even younger. Billy is instantly smitten with her because she believed him. Cut to 6 years later. Billy is now a soldier. He's back on assignment to North Hill, the city that is under lockdown due to, okay, you guys are going to have to help me with what your take's on. Cooper? Couper. It's the thing they call the cannibalist disease.
I think that's how I read it, but let me double check.
Because like that sounds like I'm saying Cooper, so it feels like it needs a little extra like, and I don't know if that's like, I mean, it's not Japanese, so
Well,
it's like
if
extra.
If you did it like the sort of overthrow thing, that would be like Kua, which is feels wrong. Feels a bit
weird,
like
yeah.
I've like my tongue's tied or something.
Yeah. But like Cooper, like I don't know if there's some like root word that makes that make more sense to like eating or cannibalism.
I mean, Cooper sounds good to me. I'm literally
Yeah.
just popping it open on Shonen Jump Plus to go and see what it said, because I didn't think about that at the time.
That's why I was like, I know I'm going to have to say this, so I'm going to start thinking about it. Well, my co-host looked that up. I'm going to keep going. Under lockdown due to Cooper, the cannibal disease. A lot of the other soldiers are freaked out to be there. We get a Full Metal Jacket drill sergeant scene that plays out, and when that person comes around to ask Billy why they're there, he requested to be at the station. He says for love, very proudly. Cut to a professor in an Army Special Forces base going over that Cooper disease had emerged from a fallen meteorite, infects anywhere to 1,000 to 10,000 people, and that they were lucky to get it quarantined into North Hill. We then get an incredible cartoony 1950s-style cartoon graphic that I've never seen before in manga going over more information on the disease, which is too complicated to go over here. Just go read it yourself. It's really good. But chief of the facts is that there is a finite number of them. They don't multiply like zombies, so it theoretically could be stopped. Cut to the lunchroom, where we see a bruised Billy from getting punched for his love insubordination. He chats with a small soldier we saw earlier, Petrie, about why he came back and his history with Eleanor, saying he'll be back in time for the baby. Petrie becomes confused with the timeline. If Billy has been gone, how can he be the father of a baby about to be born? And Billy simply clarifies that it's not his. Ellie's now ex-husband ran out when she got pregnant. Billy has come back for a woman he's not even in a proper relationship with. Petey balks at this weirdo. We get a reminder of the police state-style lockdown of the city. Big walls, barbed wire, and gun-toting soldiers everywhere. It's rough. Billy runs into a mask-wearing pregnant Eleanor on the street. The two catch up. Eleanor aggressively wonders why Billy came back here, as he's going to be stuck here in the lockdown. They head to Eleanor's place to eat and catch up. A news channel plays that another Cooper was shot in the streets, that more troops are coming to North Hill, and that a source or cure still hasn't been found. Ellie worries that her time having the baby held her back from discovering a cure. We get a flash of her possibly ex-husband telling her to abort it. But Billy is there to support her and say it was the right choice and that he'll always be by her side. Billy then pulls out a ring and attempts to pop the question, saying he loves her and will do anything to help. Eleanor is in a tizzy over this. He's much younger than she is, and that she always saw him as kind of like a younger brother, and that he should probably get out and see the world and experience more before doing this. But as this difficult conversation is happening, the baby! It's coming! The baby, the baby, the baby! They rush to the hospital. Ellie is glad Billy is at her side. She's pulled into a room, and then a meteorite falls from the heavens and explodes, exploderating very specifically the hospital. Billy shields a nearby parent and child from the blast, and is thinking he needs to protect Ellie. Ellie is not looking too good as she is stabbed by a pipe through her shoulder. A black orb appears, and Ellie pleads to save her baby. It wasn't super clear if she's pleading with the orb or not. Black goo tendrils ooze out of the orb. Again, I wasn't 100% sure from the art. And into her. Billy finally enters to a dead-looking Ellie, but lo, she is alive! But now Billy has to save the baby, but the baby doesn't make it. Billy goes back to Ellie and finds that the pipe is seemingly fused to the flesh of her body? Ellie has the Cooper infection, and she begins to fight him so she can eat him. Billy has his gun, but can't bring himself to shoot his love. And just as all hope seems lost, the baby turns its head and speaks, "I'll save you, so you save me." End of chapter. What a banger of an ending. What a time.
So good.
Yes, Cooper 29 is the name.
Cooper 29, very COVID, to say the big C.
It's literally just a long coup and a long pa. It's coup pa. So,
Coup-pa.
yeah, the pronunciation is correct as well.
Good to know.
And as long as that summary was, it's for a good reason. This is 76 pages.
It's a chonker. I had to come at this in sections to write the summary because I'm bad at sitting still and writing things. But it's good. Like, oh my gosh. Like, man, like this dropped out of nowhere. I didn't know we were getting this. I know this is a discussion. I'm supposed to say how I feel later, but like I am so jazzed about this manga.
It's definitely... it's there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of weird stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of sort of potential, imagery of like, how do these governments take control in these bad situations? And it's just, I don't, I don't even have the right words for it. There's just so much.
It hints at so much, but it doesn't get stuck in the weeds on any of it yet.
Yeah.
And it keeps... It's so easy to be too depressing and too dark with these. I feel like we've gotten some other... I think they're Jump Plus series. It's... I really should have looked up. It's like Strawberry something.
Yeah.
The plant... Yeah. Like, there's like a big plant virus that takes over, and that just was like... Didn't get it. It wasn't good. The art was gorgeous, but like this feels like it understands both the big like sci-fi-ness of it, but also the small picture of like the characters are charming and interesting, and it's like it's really easy for Billy to be. I guess here I'll ask you guys, how did you two feel about Billy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably didn't spend quite enough time with him as an adult, even though there is one thing I wanted to point out. So 76 pages. There's not a ton of dialogue. It's very art heavy, which actually it made it a very, very easy read.
It also helps that the art is super cool.
Yeah, there wasn't a point where I was like, "Oh, this is dragging on." It felt like a normal first chapter.
Absolutely. Like it's one of the great things for Jump Plus. It can be a bane or a boon. Is the length of the chapters is dictated by the creator. So, like, being able to go and say, I need this many pages for the chapter, and clearly it not being hubris, it needed this many pages, and it works. It does not feel like there is any wasted time here.
Yeah.
Except maybe the first page and the double spread, I didn't like them. It gave me a bad impression of what the series was going to be, but I think it gives you some immediate questions, which is probably why they were there.
Yeah.
What, the cannibalism?
Yeah, just the initial show of cannibalism. It's a lot of Jump Plus series are very gratuitous violence. Like, that's their whole vibe. They have a whole line of death game comics, which is just how miserable can we make everyone involved.
Yeah.
And so I read those first pages and I was like, oh god, it's another one of those. I did not realise who the author was at the time. And then as soon as you get just a little bit further, and just like the fun comes in, the softness to the art as well comes in, like just little things that make you go, oh, this has got stuff going on. There's a concept in comedy for what comic best is you have to have everyone in the universe take what's happening perfectly seriously. And like this has a lot of funny moments in it to break up the tension. But everyone takes it kind of at face value. Like Billy he's weird, but everyone's just kind of like, yeah, you're weird. And like that, I think, helps sell it a bit.
The humor is never at the expense of the drama or the tension of what's going on. It just sort of... It is a thing that kind of lightens the mood without like ruining it, which is a hard thing to balance sometimes with some of these, where it's just like the comedy can feel very out of place or like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
it never felt like that.
There's a clear distinction when you are in a serious moment. It doesn't break that up. There's some series I've read where they want to throw in that comedy in all the time, and doesn't work sometimes, and it's like, no, this is a serious moment. Wait until the end of the serious moment to put your comedy in or whatever. And this didn't do that. It was very clear, like, this is the scene that we're doing. It's not super heavy. Here's some funny stuff. And then we move on to the next thing.
The world is already heavy enough.
Right.
And I don't know, Maxie, not to fully disagree with you, but I think that opening spread is important because until the end of the chapter, we don't see... Like, you don't see the cannibalism bit. And I think if you don't get that opener and you're just constantly seeing and hearing police state, there's this virus, there's this meteorite, it, like, makes you think, like, is it... You like, the question is, like, it's happening, but there's this weird goo. And it's not as, like, we're keeping it hidden from you. It's like, the people don't get it. I don't know. I think that's important that you see that little, like, human boots on the ground moment of it so that when you start seeing it on these bigger and bigger scales, you're coming at it from... that very human moment of like, oh no, that man was very clearly deranged and ripping into that woman, which I guess we later learn is his wife. Like, I think that gives it more place, because we'd have to see it at some point, or else it would feel like, why are we being kept from this, like, visually? It's like when Oda, or any other mangaka, like, hides information from you visually, from, like, the reader. It feels like it's on purpose. And here it's just like, no, this is what these people are putting up with, and it's not being hidden from them, but they're trying to live away from it.
In like the full context of the chapter, it's perfectly fine. It does its job. But like when you first open it and it's like opening on that, it's like
When you have the context of those death games you talked about, I could definitely see that.
It puts fear in me is the key. But like, almost in the whole chapter, without it, you don't get to understand what these guys are like when they're infected.
It almost might have worked better to open with the meteorite hitting. Not the one at the end, like the first one.
I think that's now too early. Like, I think it works because it's this small human boots on the ground moment and not like here's my big exposition. Like, if you gave me the Cooper exposition dump right at the start with the meteor going off, like, I feel like that would have ruined...
Well, I wouldn't...
It would have messed with the vibe. Not ruined.
I wouldn't do exposition.
Yeah.
It would be the meteorite hits and maybe you see like a little silhouette of something.
But then when you just keep thinking about, while you're reading, you're just going, what's with that meteorite? Like, I feel like it's too big of a thing to then... zoom in. I don't know.
But they explain the meteorite very early.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I guess if this was like how Shonen Jump does the opening of a chapter where it's a single colour page, full colour page, I feel like you would have that. You would have the meteor coming down like towards the town, sense of tension, double page colour spread, and then you might have the scene with the bite immediately afterwards. So you would get like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. You'd get another big thing that would draw your attention away to go, okay, wait, actually, what's going on here in the now? I think something's up with Billy.
Probably.
I didn't put it in the summary, but right when the meteorite's coming, like, as it's coming down, before he sees it, he describes having a headache, and also he's just a weirdo, and it's weird to me that, like, I put it in the summary because it seems specific. It's like, and also I guess she's pregnant, but like when Eleanor's walking around, like her and a bunch of other people you see in background shots are wearing masks, and Billy just is never wearing a mask. Like some of his other soldiers are.
He's an anti-vaxxer.
I don't know. I don't know how much like this. I don't know. It's just because it's the number, because any disease has that like number after them. We just don't usually hear them as like lay people. Like all I can think about is this somewhat is inspired by us being in lockdown, but it's been long enough from it that it doesn't feel like, why are you talking about this now? I don't want to think about this. Like it's different enough and it's been just long enough that I can be like, okay, let's see.
I don't know that we need to read too much into that, because wearing a mask for Japanese people is like a normal thing.
But it just, I don't know, it just for some reason in that moment when it's like her and a bunch of other people, but he is never, and I don't like, like I only have the first chapter, so I don't know if I'm reading in too much. And also because it's like a communicable disease, but not in the normal ways.
But it's not, and that's the thing.
I guess you're right. They do tell you. I skimmed that in the summary because it would have been too wordy, and I'm like, I can't. This summary.
I think that's deliberate. I think you do not spend a whole page with lush, cartoonish illustrations,
gorgeous,
telling you this is not communicable. If you get bitten, you're just getting bitten. Like, unless they're trying to go and say, okay, look, we know we're making this during COVID. This is how it is not COVID. Which I think, if anything, is a reassurance to the reader. They're going like, look, you don't want to be thinking about the horrors of the real world. This is similar but different.
Not that it's about it or they want to invoke that, but that some of the feeling of, and maybe, again, this is my reading as people who went through it, of like, the using your experience going through lockdown as like some of the dressing of it. And I don't know. Again, first chapter, don't know, but that was just something that was just like, oh, hey, this is familiar to me now. We've all gone through a global event. Interesting.
It's a useful shorthand. If you've lived through it and it's giving you something that feels similar but different, those feelings are evoked. Like you're immediately going, oh god, no, the memory is 2020. No.
Yeah. I don't think this is about the pandemic. I think it's just is. But I mean, obviously, we'll see. There's one of my predictions about. I guess what will happen is that it is take some lived experience from the author.
I mean, we can jump into that right now. As far as like, where is this going to go? That baby was such a twister, even though it's like, duh, Astro Baby, you dingus, but I'm like, did not see it coming, and now I've like no idea, and I'm so excited. The closest I think I can get to like sort of a prediction of where this might be headed is the baby is one of the alien things, probably, but also like it's going to help Billy to get rid of the other ones so that it can stick around or something like that. Because it's obviously with the meteorite coming down, the second one and everything, like it's a second wave one, right? As opposed to the first wave ones that have been here for a while. And so there's probably some difference between them. Maybe it's even a completely different species or something. Who knows? But like, they're going to have to fight against the government in some way. Beyond that, I'm just like, who knows? This is so original as far as I'm concerned.
The closest thing I can pull from that kind of I could see it following some of is suggested many years ago on our first, whatever we call them, Review-a-Palooza?
Review extravaganza.
I'm a Palooza homie. Parasite.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm assuming you've read Parasite or seen it.
It's exactly what I was about to bring up.
Sorry,
So,
I'll give you the rest of the setup of why it's similar.
No, this is pure agreement. Because the whole thing with that is an alien parasite taking over the arm of someone, whereas all the other parasites have been taking over the entire beings of people and sort of becoming these monstrosities. And it's like becomes an us versus them sort of thing. Like the one that's teaming up with you can win the day. If you want a more recent Shonen Jump example, there's a series called Doron, which is like, oh yeah, this one like yokai teams up with the main character to help fight other yokai. It's like, it's a fairly well-worn trope, but this is very specifically feeling like Parasite.
But it's cool because it's like sci-fi. It's not just like a magical ghost.
Yeah.
It's not It's not Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not like a magical ghost inhabited you and now you can do this stuff. It's just like, hey, I'm one of these things, but I'm maybe one of the good ones, and you're gonna have to fight these. But I think what will make this interesting is Parasite, like the government and the military don't get involved until later, and like we are already in the middle of this popping off and everybody knows about it. Like, I love the scene of the scientist describing the like mechanics of it was done so well. It was clear. The cartoony like infographics were great, even just stylistically of them, but they could communicate what's going on really well, and you instantly just know, okay, here is the situation we're dealing with. And knowing that it's like, hey, when you beat these things, like, this can be beaten. It's not like a zombie thing where it's purely like a disease. It's like, if you best these things, they're done. But now there's more.
I think there's like a distinct difference with the setup of Parasite where, and of course this could go anywhere. We don't know. Chapter,
it's my closest comparison.
It seems to be different in that in Parasite, he sort of gains powers through this parasite that he can then use to fight these other ones. Whereas in this, it's been shown that like they're still just normal people. They just happen to be cannibals. And
well, these could be the low level ones.
Maybe, yeah. But like also then the one he's going to be working with is a baby, so that's like no powers. So like it seems to be a different direction, less of the paranormal superpower kind of thing, and more maybe an espionage kind of thing.
Maybe. What's that manga you lent me that I never read and returned to you, Brad? That you got physically, all of it? It's like, I think it's vampires or something vampire-esque.
What?
Like, years ago, you got the entire collection of it, and I'm like,
Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah, Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah.
That's something else I could maybe crib notes from. I should really read it. I've been holding on to the first book of it. Brad has all of them, and I was like, I'm going to read this, and then I never did, and it's been years.
I think I'm 3 volumes in.
We're bad.
Yeah.
We read all the other manga except the manga right in front of us.
Always the way.
But maybe it's that these are just the particular examples we've seen.
Maybe.
Or just the rank and file, or maybe this new meteorite is now like Gen 2.
Yeah.
Shuckle's going to come out. I don't know.
Yeah, Shuckle.
It's going to be interesting seeing how the baby plays out when it's presumably detached from the mother, because, like, to my mind, I assume that that's why it was able to like stop the attack, was because it's like a connected species at this point.
Well, and I'm wondering,
if it works a certain way, you can't be connected forever. That would be a problem.
There's a thing, it doesn't quite clearly show what's going on. I'm wondering if the thing was in the mom and then changed its mind and went into the baby in that moment, right before she was.
Oh, maybe.
Because we didn't get a culmination of that. We don't know if the mom is still doing something, or if she's just dead, or if she's alive and it's not in her anymore. Like, we don't know what's going on yet.
I mean, also at least from what we know, like I guess I don't know how I can trust Billy as like a medical professional, but like he checks the baby and he's like, oh, baby's dead. but then it talks. Like, is it being used as like, is it a vessel? Is it a puppet?
Right.
Like, I don't know. There's like, gosh, when is the last, like, I've gotten excited about new manga, but never like this level of like world, like mystery solving intrigue. Not just like, oh, I really want to see this guy suplex this guy, or what's going to happen with this golf thing. Like, I think it's been a while since we've had like a really good big like fantasy sci-fi like solve the mysteries, because it's so easy, especially for me, where it's like, okay guys, you did too much world building, like I don't care, or this is too esoteric. And it's like, here it's just like, I am just like, we're having this conversation right now and I'm loving it, of just like us, because like I don't think, have we had another episode that has been this much us trying to figure out what happens next? Like, even the new ones we started.
Probably not. Well, we've covered a lot of sports manga.
We've literally covered a lot of sports manga recently, so that's not usually Brad just gives his patented, here's the sports manga. I've
how
read
sports
none of them, but I know
manga
all of them. And he's usually right.
Ridiculous. Best genre in the world. You can't predict it. Sports is the best.
But this, like, we haven't had... Because I think one of the only other non-sports ones we got at, like, Chapter 1, which admittedly still hasn't dropped, is Shadow Eliminators. And Shadow Eliminators is Shadow Eliminators.
Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for a thing we recorded a month ago.
Oh, boy. Well, so, Psychos... Quickly, I hate to go back to this as well now, so getting this momentum forward. So think about the ages involved. Say, if people are thinking, oh, Billy seems a bit weird, and we're going, oh, what if he's infected? He was a small snot-nosed child. This is a literal baby. Is there perhaps a different level of cognitive decline caused by the infection, dependent on the age of the people?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff to think about.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see where this stuff goes, and it could turn out to be the most generic stuff.
I don't think so. So much of this feels so interesting and deliberate, and like everything's popping off.
Yeah.
Kind of weird for the author to do a second series that is also about a walled city, but this is just what they do.
That's what they like. At least it's not like another series about a walled city. But custard fascist.
But no, I'm really interested. I'm hooked. I'm totally hooked.
I know we don't do we've already learned that I've revamped Flat Pull, and we don't do the feelings chart because we just talk about them because we're humans and you can hear our voices. But at the bottom of it, because I put the big meme ones that you'll probably never pick, but kind of genuinely, I have it as like above fantastic. I have, if anything happens to this manga, even though I've just only read one chapter, I will kill myself and everybody in this Discord, or whatever the joke is from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And like, genuinely, I kind of feel that it's like, I need to know what happens next with every fiber of my being. I don't even know when, is this releasing on Sundays with everything else then, or does this have its own cycle? I don't know. Because it didn't, when I checked the app, it didn't, usually it tells me when the next one was coming out. This one didn't.
Oh, it did say 6 days when I read it. So,
okay.
Yeah. Friday?
The original one came out, I think, Friday.
Yeah.
So
a lot of these new launches have a tendency to be weekly for the first couple of chapters, and then the actual schedule begins, because Jump Plus, you don't have to really follow a schedule. You can change your mind when you want.
I just need enough to get it running. I'm so curious.
It's good. We'll probably get like a solid first volume made, and then like we'll learn what the real schedule is.
I'm content with that. I just wasn't sure if it's like, is this a one shot? Or is it going to be a while? Like, if I heard anything, I didn't know what it was, or that we'd be getting it on the app. So
if this was a monthly series, I'll be climbing the walls. I wouldn't be able to.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's not even like, oh, learn Japanese and go read it. It's like, it's not done yet. It's not happening. There's no speeding the timeline up.
So I think we should tell people to join us for the Flat Pull for this. I know it's not a regular one, but
we can start it. We can be the trendsetters, and somebody else's is Discord.
I'm going to do it.
You can play this at home when we're about to do by coming to the Shonen Flop Discord. You should come to our Discord, but come to their Discord as well and find the thread for this, and you can cast your own vote. As long as you put a little frog head emoji or similar frog thing, I will accept Kermit or Froppy. They're frog enough. And I'll start a voting page, even though we usually seemingly only do this for jump titles. So I guess because survivability in Plus isn't as cutthroat, I guess, because it's digital. There's no actual magazine to take up physical space in.
I think as long as we get a thread, we should do it.
Okay. I'm agreeing with that. I'll start it up. I'm doing my part.
So now we gotta do our
with
quick
that,
draw.
We have to do our quick draw, and before we get that, to get what our voting choices are, I'm going to throw it to our good pal Truxan for Truxan's Rules of the Range. Take it away, Truxan. Hey everybody, it's me, it's Truxan, your friendly neighborhood Truxan. It's Truxan's Rule of the Range. So we're at the bottom, we got Dead Walking, dead in 20 chapters or less, an early grave, like Do Retry or Candy Flurry. Next up from that, we got a flop. Granted a stay of execution, under 50 chapters, like a Fabricant 100, or a Doron Dororon, whatever that is. Next up is It'll Live. Hangs on just past flop zone, sub 120 chapters, like PPPPPP, or Magu-chan. Then we got Solid. Seer that does well but hasn't reached its true popularity, like an Akane Banache or Undead Unluck. Can get an anime. Then we got the hit, truly popular with an anime and hundreds of chapters, like a Black Clover or an Assassination Classroom. And finally, oh my gosh, the Supernova, industry shaker and shaper. Readers want to be with them, other manga want to be like them, like a Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen. And that's Truxan's Rules of the Range. Back to you. Thanks a lot, Truxan. So, with that out of the way, with our choices, what do we... MaxyBee, special guest MaxyBee, we'll let you go first. What is your vote for this one?
What was the absolute top vote you could give it?
Supernova, industry shaker and shaper. Readers want to be with them, other manga want to be them.
Make it bigger. Make it even bigger. Make it so it's so big it collapses on itself and becomes a black hole. I am into this. I want it to succeed. I feel like Soloist in a Cage, if it weren't for the hiatus, would have been a lot bigger than it was as well. And that still did pretty well. Like, this is something that deserves to be an absolute, like, tentpole for Shonen Jump Plus. The sort of thing you'd put with your Kaiju number 8s, no matter what I think of that series. Or with your just your Spy Families and the like. You know, this should be a big thing for the website.
That's our first Supernova.
This is our first. Brad, Supernova. It's time. I didn't know we'd ever find a series to break the glass on chapter 1 without knowing anything, but like genuinely Supernova. Legit.
Not to take away from your ratings, because
you're free. Usually you're a lot more optimistic than I am. This is a fun reversal.
I'm just gonna call it a hit.
That's fine.
I don't think it's
not a disrespect.
It's got, at least from this first chapter, I don't think it has quite enough to be sort of like the all-rounder thing that really makes something a Supernova. But I think it's got enough that
it's new, it's different, it's weird. But it's like it's solid. It knows what it's doing. It sets things up, but you can feel it in the bones. Maxie, do you get that from a chapter 1? Brad's not always the greatest person to bounce these off of. That you can, like, you read enough manga that you can, like, feel in your bones when, like, an artist, an author knows what they're doing and not just like, we're just tossing stuff out. Like, you can, in things that you can't quite describe, but you just know it.
100%. Problem is, a lot of what I read is in Shonen Jump, and I am twice the age of the average Shonen Jump reader. So, like, I can feel it, and I can be wrong.
Well, okay, no, I guess that feeling is for if it's good or not. Like, if you will like if it's good or not, or if the wheels will come off. Because the wheels staying on or coming off, we have learned, is not indicative to if it will live in the magazine or not.
Right.
My constant crying over MMA is a weekly thing. That when that happens, good Lord, it's coming, and I don't want it to be.
Hold a funeral.
There will be a wake. I will make sure. If no one else does it, I will have a virtual wake on the Flop Discord when MMA gets the axe, and I will be very sad.
It's the kids who are wrong. MMA is amazing.
Genuinely, in this case. Careful. They can have Tenmaku Cinema, fine. For my MMA.
No, I'm still mad. I'm still mad about Tenmaku Cinema and Fabric.
When the girl with the Bobby Fish mouth, shark mouth guard does a big German suplex, and it's the raddest thing ever. I'm done. We're talking about Astro Baby. We're talking about Astro Baby.
I think we might be done talking about it.
I think we're talking. I mean, I could talk about it forever, but we need to be done at some point. So, I think it's super. We're all reading this. We're all dying. We're all chomping at the bit for Chapter 2 to drop in however many days. I don't think that's a question I need to raise to the group.
Yeah.
Is there any other last pieces we want to get into? Max, do you have anything before we hit the outro?
It's just this is a really beautiful comic, and I can't stress it enough. The author's previous series, Soloist in a Cage, very good series. If you're hungry for more and you can't wait for more chapters, get Soloist in a Cage. Yeah. Subscribe to Manga Plus if you want to read it that way. Buy the volumes from Seven Seas if you want to read it that way. Just this is an author to get on board with, and the wait between chapters can be hell if you don't have more of the author's work to cope with.
My Mad Money recommendation is buy.
I did have one last thing.
One last thing?
Because I forgot to say this earlier. Mm-hmm. There was some talk in I forget where it was. It might have been in the thread on the Shonen Flop Discord. Some people were talking about how grotesque this was and everything. And so when I started reading it, I was,
Oh, Ben. It was Ben that was talking.
Ben?
Our co-host, Bento Baggins Ben.
And honestly, I didn't like it's more grotesque than something that you would see in Shonen Jump. But honestly, I didn't think it was too bad.
No. I think Ben just saw horror and was excited as a horror aficionado.
But I think this is the thing, like, a lot of people are, I think, due to the state of the general manga market, very heavily trained on Shonen Jump, which is a certain vibe, a certain look, certain levels of violence. Jump Plus is not that.
Yeah.
Like, it
Chainsaw
is
Man lives there.
Infinitely more grim. Yeah, and it basically moved there for two reasons. One, Schedule 2 content. It wanted to be able to keep being grotesque. And, like, it clearly pays off because you get things like this sometimes. It's like, yeah, you get a lot of things that are just grim, miserable violence, but sometimes you get this.
Sometimes you get Dog's Red as well. Or no, wait, Dog's Red isn't in that. We just have it on the
that's Young Jump, where the violence gets even more interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jump Plus, you also get things like Shibatarian, where a film fanatic tree teams up with a cynical teen and decides to destroy the world. And that's not quite what the series is, but it's pretty close.
Knowing nothing about Doom Patrol, that sounds like Doom Patrol.
It's basically Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
No, it's not, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you everybody for listening. This has been us covering Astro Baby, if you somehow forgot, during the episode. And with that, Brad, plug me up, Buttercup.
Yeah, as always, we want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. They got a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside of Japan. Listeners of our podcast can check the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off the first order, which also helps us out. You can also let us know what you think on social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can also leave comments about these podcast episodes and find other posts and reviews. And come chat with us on our Discord. You can also check out our Patreon, where supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series to cover on heroin addiction, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And we'd love to hear what perks you'd like. And of course, we got to give our patrons a shout-out. First off, at our Reincarnator tier, we have Cake Dwarf and Moon. Next, at our Merchant tier, we've got Kill Hour. And last but certainly not least, at our Commoner tier, we've got Rena. So thanks so much to all our patrons. And Maxie, you got some plugs.
Yes, why, yes, I certainly do. You can find me on socials only via Blue Sky, where I am at MaxyBee. You can also go and find me on the Shonen Flop Discord, where I am also the researcher for their podcast. You can find at shonenflop.com. Other than that, you can also find my own podcast currently on hiatus, Radio Gundam, which is on Spotify and all other podcast platforms. That's it. Nothing else.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, again for listening. Make sure you listen to our mainline podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated, in the same world as an anime podcaster. And, oh gosh, Brad, what's that black goo coming from your mouth? Ah, Brad! Ah! We watched the first 5 minutes of that weird bar one that I was just flabbergasted by the
that's a
animation.
different one.
I know
And
that's a different one.
That's a full length.
That's Snack Basue, yeah.
Yeah.
Snack Basue full length?
Yeah.
It broke.
That is...
It shouldn't be.
That manga is not the sort of one that can be full length.
I think it's multiple
short
ones.
put together. Yeah, we were watching, what was that, Heaven Street that did that?
All Saints Street.
All Saints Street had that, where it was
That's
just like
exhausting,
entire
though.
series, a season of shorts were just put together to make an episode, at least on Crunchyroll.
Have you seen All Saints Street?
I can't say I have, no.
It's really good.
It's technically not anime?
It's like
Question mark?
style.
Taxonomy?
What's that?
Everything's anime. Everything's anime.
Yeah.
Everything's anime, even when it's Chinese?
I think it's Chinese made.
It's a Chinese web comic. It doesn't
the key
look
is-
like an anime, but it's got anime DNA in it.
Yeah.
Design.
If you ask someone in Japan what King of the Hill or The Simpsons is, they say anime.
Okay.
Everything's anime.
I guess we've talked about Kameksu
Yeah.
before. Ben's big on that.
But no, it's really good.
It's very adorable. And special guest star, I forgot the bit. Edit that.
So before we jump into the plugs real quick, I'm gonna go see what that banging is.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh shoot, yeah. There's been banging here. Hammering. I'm sure it's probably just my neighbor hammering. One time, it's probably not what's happening, but one time I'm at my place and Brad comes over and we're gonna, I don't remember if we're recording or not. And because he is outside, I come out to greet him and find I live in a set of condos that one of the houses a couple down from mine, the fire department's there and there's smoke pouring out of the door, and I wouldn't have known if Brad was not there. So I don't think that's what's happening now, and luckily there was no fire and nobody got hurt. But it's understandable to want to go check it. But also, I know my neighbors like doing construction at weird hours, and by weird hours I mean a Sunday afternoon, which is admittedly very reasonable. So,
Well, as long as a meteorite containing black goo hasn't landed, you're fine.
that's how we should end it. Oh my gosh, Brad, what's leaking out of your mouth? There we go. I've spoiled the gag, and now you have to laugh for me again, Maxie, when I do it, or it's not going to work.
Oh, I'm a massively nervous human being. I'll laugh when I do anything.
Thank you.
When anyone else does anything.
Same.
All of this build, I want you to get comfy in your seat, Brandon, and just go, everything's on fire.
I told Maxie
There's a meteorite that hit. There's black goo everywhere.
I told Maxie about the my
I'm
neighbor's
getting
house
really
being
hungry
on fire.
for some reason.
Save this energy for the outro gag. Bring it in.
I went up and down the steps. I need to. I'm not out of breath, but it's enough.
It's a thing of the black goo. It makes your cardio be garbage. Oh no! How do they catch people?
Sometimes stairs is hard. I know, my work desk is up 5 steps, and I get there and people are like, you're out of breath? And I'm like, no, I'm just collecting myself, it's fine.
Change in elevation, you gotta check back in.
Well, yeah, every meter up you get, the air gets thinner, I don't know.
Thank you once again, everybody, for listening. Make sure you listen to our mainline podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated, in the same world as an anime codcast.
Codpaster.
Codpaster. Pasta Maker. That's my favorite one.
We all gotta die someday, sometimes it's just by our co-hosts.